The slave market on Kepler Station buzzed with noise and bad smells. Dozens of different alien species walked between the cages, looking at the prisoners inside. Most buyers came here for strong workers or pretty companions. Few cared about the small, weak-looking creatures that sat in the dark corners dotting cage number 47. A tiny blue-skinned girl pressed herself against the cold metal bars. Her name was Kira, though nobody here knew that. She had large purple eyes that seemed too big for her small face. Silver markings covered her forehead in patterns that meant something important to her people. But here they just made her look different and strange. Kira was not like the other slaves. She came from the planet Nexus Prime, where her people lived in crystal cities that touched the clouds. She was the daughter of their greatest leader, what humans might call a queen. But the slave traders who took her did not know this. To them, she was just another alien child to sell. 3 months ago, raiders attacked her homeworld. They came in black ships that blocked out the sun. Her people fought bravely, but the raiders had better weapons and more ships. When the battle was lost, they took the survivors to sell as slaves across the galaxy. Kira remembered the day they took her. She was playing in the royal gardens when the alarm started. Her mother, Queen Vera, grabbed her and tried to run to the safe rooms deep underground, but the raiders found them first. The last thing Kira saw of her home was her mother's face as the raiders dragged her away. Now she sat in this cage, far from everything she knew. The other slaves around her came from many different worlds. There was Bix, a large green creature with 4 arms who used to be a farmer. Next to him was Nala, a bird-like alien who could sing beautiful songs. They all had stories of homes they would never see again. The slave traders were a cruel species called the Vex. They looked like tall, thin humans but with gray skin and black eyes. They wore metal collars around their necks that made them stronger and meaner. Their leader was a Vex named Drac who enjoyed making his prisoners afraid. Every day, buyers came to look at the slaves. The strong ones were bought quickly to work in mines or factories. The pretty ones went to rich families as servants. But Kira was too small for heavy work and too young for most other jobs. Day after day, she watched other slaves get sold while she stayed in her cage. The food was terrible. They got thin soup and hard bread once a day. The water tasted like metal and made Kira sick to her stomach. At night, the station was cold, and she had only a thin blanket to keep warm. She often cried quietly, thinking about her mother, and wondering if she was still alive. One morning, everything changed. A human walked into the slave market, and Kira had never seen anything like him before. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. Most aliens thought they were just another weak species from a backwater planet. This human was tall with brown hair and kind eyes. He wore simple clothes and carried himself like someone who was not afraid. His name was Jack, though Kira did not know this yet. Jack was a trader who traveled between worlds, buying and selling goods. He was not rich, but he made enough money to live freely among the stars. What made Jack different from most traders was that he hated slavery. He had seen too much suffering in his travels and could not stand to watch innocent beings treated like animals. Jack walked slowly through the market, looking at all the cages. His face showed anger when he saw how badly the slaves were treated. When he reached Kira's cage, he stopped. Something about the small blue girl caught his attention. Maybe it was her eyes, which showed intelligence and sadness. Maybe it was the way she sat with dignity even in this terrible place. Drac noticed Jack looking at Kira and walked over with a mean smile. "You interested in that one, human?" he asked in broken galactic standard. "She is young but will grow into good worker. Very cheap price for you today." Jack looked at Kira more carefully. He saw the silver markings on her forehead and recognized them from his travels. These were royal marks from Nexus Prime. This was not just any alien child. This was someone very important. But he kept his face calm and did not show what he was. Thinking, "What species is she?" Jack asked, pretending not to know. "Nexari," Drac said. "From Nexus Prime, planet got destroyed in war. She is one of last ones left, very rare now. Make good pet or servant when older." Jack felt anger rise in his chest. The way Drac talked about Kira like she was an animal made him sick. But he knew. He had to be smart about this. If he showed too much interest, the price would go up and he might not be able to help her. She looks weak, Jack said, trying to sound uninterested. What can she do? She's smart, Drac replied. Nexari people very intelligent. She learned quick. Do whatever you want. Only cost 50 credits. 50 credits was not much money, but Jack knew why the price was low. Most buyers wanted slaves who could work right away. A small child like Kira would need years before she could do heavy labor. What Drac did not know was that Jack did not want a slave at all. He wanted to set her free. Jack looked at Kira one more time. She stared back at him with those big purple eyes, and he saw something that surprised him. She was not begging or crying like many of the other slaves. Instead, she looked at him with curiosity, as if trying to figure out what kind of person he was. In that moment, Jack made his decision. He would buy this alien princess and set her free. It was the right thing to do, even if it put him in danger. The Vex did not like it when their slaves escaped, and they would hunt anyone who helped them. I will take her, Jack said simply. Drac's smile grew wider. Excellent choice, human. She will serve you well. As the credits changed hands and the cage door opened, Kira looked up at her new owner with hope and fear mixed together. She did not know that her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. Jack led Kira away from the slave market through the busy corridors of Kepler Station. She walked behind him quietly, her small feet making no sound on the metal floor. Other aliens stared at them as they passed. A human with a Nexari slave was an unusual sight in this part of the galaxy. Kira's heart beat fast as they walked. She did not know what this human planned to do with her. Some slave owners were kind, but many were cruel. She had heard terrible stories from other slaves about what happened to those who were sold. Her people had taught her to be brave, but she was still just a child, scared and far from home. Jack's ship was docked in the lower levels of the station. It was not a big ship, just large enough for one person to live in and carry some cargo. The outside was old and dented from many journeys between the stars. But Kira could see that Jack took good care of it. Everything was clean and in its proper place. Come inside, Jack said gently. These were the first words he had spoken directly to her. Kira followed him into the ship. The inside was small but comfortable. There was a pilot seat at the front, a small kitchen area, and a bed in the back. Books and strange objects from different worlds sat on shelves along the walls. It smelled like coffee and engine oil, not unpleasant, but very different from her crystal palace back home. Jack pointed to a chair near the kitchen table. Sit down, he said. Are you hungry? Kira nodded slowly. She had not eaten real food in months, only the terrible soup from the slave market. Jack opened some containers and began preparing a meal. He moved with practice, like someone who had lived alone on a ship for a long time. While Jack cooked, Kira looked around the ship more carefully. She saw pictures on the walls showing different planets and cities. There were books written in languages she did not recognize. On one shelf sat a small crystal that looked like it came from her homeworld. Her eyes grew wide when she saw it. Jack noticed her staring at the crystal. I got that on Nexus Prime, he said quietly. Beautiful planet. I was sorry to hear what happened there. Tears started to fill Kira's eyes. You were on my world? She asked in a small voice. Yes, Jack replied. Several years ago, before the war, I traded with your people. They were kind to me, treated me with respect even though I was just a human from a small planet. Jack finished cooking and brought 2 plates to the table. The food looked and smelled wonderful compared to what Kira had been eating. There was real meat, fresh vegetables, and bread that was still warm. She ate slowly at first, then faster as her hunger took over. What is your name? Jack asked as they ate. Kira hesitated. Slaves were not supposed to have names, only numbers. But something about Jack made her feel safe. Kira, she said quietly. That's a pretty name, Jack said with a smile. My name is Jack. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Kira could not remember the last time she had felt full and satisfied. When they finished, Jack cleared the plates and sat back down across from her. "Kira," he said seriously, "I need to tell you something important. I did not buy you to be my slave." Kira looked up at him with confusion. "I do not understand." "I bought you to set you free," Jack explained. "Slavery is wrong. No one should own another living being. You are not my property. You are a person with rights and dignity." Kira stared at him in shock. "But the law says I belong to you now." "The law is wrong," Jack said firmly. "Just because something is legal does not make it right. Humans learned that lesson long ago on our own world." Jack stood up and walked to a cabinet. He pulled out some papers and brought them back to the table. "These are your ownership documents," he said. "Watch this." He took the papers and tore them into small pieces. Then he threw the pieces in the trash. "You are free, Kira. You can go wherever you want. Do whatever you choose." Kira began to cry. Not from sadness, but from relief and joy. For months she had felt like a thing, not a person. Now this strange human was telling her she was free. It seemed too good to be true, but where will I go? She asked through her tears. My world is gone. My people are scattered across the galaxy. I have no money, no ship, no way to survive. Jack had been thinking about this problem since he bought her. "You can stay with me if you want," he offered. "Not as a slave, but as a friend and traveling companion. I could use the company and you could learn about the galaxy while we figure out how to find your people." "You would do that for me?" Kira asked in amazement. "Yes," Jack said simply. "It's the right thing to do." Kira thought about this offer. She could try to survive on her own, but she was young and knew nothing about life outside her home world. Jack seemed kind and honest, and he had already done more for her than anyone else since she was captured. "I would like to stay with you," she said. "But I'm not just any Nexari." Jack raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Kira took a deep breath. "I am Princess Kira, daughter of Queen Vera of Nexus Prime. The silver markings on my forehead show my royal blood. If my people are still alive somewhere, they will be looking for me." Jack was quiet for a long moment. He had suspected something like this when he saw her markings, but hearing it confirmed was still surprising. "That explains why you carry yourself with such dignity," he said. "Even in that terrible cage, you look like royalty." "Does this change your mind about helping me?" Kira asked nervously. "No," Jack said firmly. "If anything, it makes me more determined to help you. A princess of your people deserves better than slavery. We'll find your mother and the other survivors if they're out there." Jack began preparing the ship for departure. "The Vex will not look for you right away," he explained. "But once they realize what I've done, they'll try to track us down. We need to get far away from here before that happens." As the ship lifted off from Kepler Station, Kira watched through the window as they flew into space. For the first time in months, she felt hope. This human had saved her life and given her freedom. She did not know what adventures waited for them among the stars, but she was ready to face them with her new friend. Jack set course for the Outer Rim territories, far from Vex space. "Get some rest," he told Kira. "Tomorrow we start looking for your people. And I promise you this, as long as I'm alive, no one will ever make you a slave again." Kira smiled for the first time since her capture. She had found something, she thought. Was lost forever, hope for the future. 3 weeks had passed since Jack and Kira left Kepler Station. They traveled from world to world, looking for any sign of the surviving Nexari people. Jack used his contacts and trading connections to gather information, while Kira learned about life outside her destroyed homeworld. Their first stop was Gamma Station, a trading post near the edge of known space. Jack hoped to find other traders who might have seen Nexari refugees. But the station master, a fat alien with 3 eyes, just shook his head when they asked. "Nexari people?" he wheezed. "Heard they all died when their planet got attacked. Bad business, that war. Raiders took everything valuable and left the rest to burn." Kira's face fell when she heard this, but Jack squeezed her shoulder gently. "Don't give up," he whispered. "We'll keep looking." They visited mining colonies, spaceports, and refugee camps across 12 different systems. Everywhere they went, the story was the same. People had heard about the attack on Nexus Prime, but no one had seen any survivors. Some traders told them about Nexari slaves being sold in distant markets, but by the time Jack and Kira arrived, the trails were always cold. During their travels, Kira learned many things about the galaxy and about humans. She discovered that humans were stronger than they looked and much braver than most other species believed. Jack taught her how to read star charts, how to repair the ship's systems, and how to defend herself with basic fighting moves. "Why do you help people like this?" Kira asked one evening as they sat in the ship's small kitchen. "Most traders only care about making money." Jack was quiet for a moment, stirring his coffee. "I grew up on Earth during a bad time," he finally said. "There was a lot of fighting between different groups of humans. I saw what happened when people treated each other like enemies instead of family. When I got old enough, I left Earth to see the galaxy and maybe make things a little better wherever I went. Is that why you freed me?" "Partly," Jack admitted, "but also because it was the right thing to do. My people have a saying, 'Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.' I would want someone to help me if I was trapped and scared." Kira nodded thoughtfully. Her own people had similar teachings about helping those in need. It made her feel closer to Jack, knowing that humans and Nexari shared some of the same values. Their luck began to change when they reached the border world of New Haven. This planet was home to many different species who had fled wars and disasters across the galaxy. The governor was a wise old alien named Elder Tox who worked hard to help refugees rebuild their lives. When Jack and Kira met with Elder Tox, his eyes grew wide as he saw Kira's royal markings. "By the ancient stars," he breathed, "you are one of the royal family of Nexus Prime. You know about my people?" Kira asked hopefully. "Indeed I do, young princess," Elder Tox replied, "and I have news that will fill your heart with joy. 3 ships full of Nexari survivors arrived here 2 months ago. They are living in the settlement on the North Continent." Kira jumped up from her chair, her eyes bright with tears of happiness. "My mother? Is Queen Vera with them?" Elder Tox's expression became sad. "I am sorry, child. Your mother did not escape the attack, but many others did, including some of your royal guard and several hundred citizens. They have been asking every trader and traveler about you. They refuse to believe you are dead." Kira sat back down heavily, grief and joy fighting in her heart. She was sad to learn that her mother was truly gone, but overjoyed to know that some of her people had survived. Jack put his arm around her shoulders as she cried. "Can you take us to them?" Jack asked Elder Tox. "Of course," the elder replied, "but I must warn you of something. The Vex have been asking questions about a human trader and a young Nexari girl. They are offering a large reward for your capture. You must be very careful." Jack's face hardened. "How long ago were they here?" 5 days, Elder Tox said. "They moved on when my people told them we had seen nothing. But they will return if they learn you are here." "Then we need to reach Kira's people quickly," Jack decided. "Can you give us safe passage to the settlement?" Elder Tox nodded. "I will provide you with an escort and false identification papers. But after you reunite the princess with her people, I suggest you leave this world quickly. The Vex are not known for giving up easily." The journey to the Nexari settlement took 2 days by ground, transport through New Haven's beautiful forests and mountains. Kira grew more excited with each passing hour. Soon she would see familiar faces and hear her own language spoken again. But she also felt nervous about leaving Jack, who had become like an older brother to her. "What will happen to you when I join my people?" she asked as they neared the settlement. "I'll continue traveling," Jack said. "There are always people who need help somewhere in the galaxy. But what if the Vex catch you? They will be angry that you freed me." Jack smiled. "Don't worry about me, princess. Humans are good at staying out of trouble when we need to." When they finally reached the Nexari settlement, Kira could hardly believe her eyes. Crystal buildings rose from the forest floor similar to those on her homeworld, but smaller and simpler. Gardens full of familiar plants surrounded the buildings. and the sound of Nexari music drifted through the air. The first person to see them was Captain Tor, the leader of her mother's royal guard. He was a tall, strong Nexari with the scars of many battles on his blue skin. When he saw Kira, he dropped to one knee and bowed his head. "Princess," he said in their musical language, "we thought you were lost forever." Soon dozens of Nexari surrounded them, all talking at once and reaching out to touch Kira as if to make sure she was real. She recognized many faces from her old life: teachers, servants, guards, and friends. They told her about their escape from Nexus Prime and their long journey to this safe world. An old Nexari woman named Healer Myra pushed through the crowd and took Kira's hands. "Child, we have mourned you as dead these many months. How did you survive? How did you find us?" Kira turned to Jack, who stood quietly watching the reunion. "This human saved me," she said proudly. "His name is Jack, and he freed me from slavery when no one else would help." The crowd of Nexari turned to look at Jack with surprise and growing respect. Captain Tor approached him and bowed deeply. "Human Jack," he said in Galactic Standard, "you have returned our princess to us. We are forever in your debt." "I don't need any payment," Jack replied. "I just wanted to do what was right." But even as the Nexari welcomed their lost princess home, danger was approaching. In orbit above New Haven, 3 Black Vex ships had just arrived, and their commander was very angry about a certain human trader who had cost him a valuable slave. The space above New Haven became a battlefield unlike any the galaxy had seen before. On one side were 3 powerful Vex warships with advanced weapons and military training. On the other side was a fleet of nearly 100 ships from dozens of different species, united by a simple belief that freedom was worth fighting. For General Voss fired the first shot, targeting the largest human freighter with his flagship's main cannon. But before the energy beam could reach its target, 3 smaller ships moved into its path, their shields absorbing the blast. The traders were protecting each other, just as they had come to protect Jack. "Return fire," Captain Santos ordered. "From the New Horizon. All ships target their weapon systems. We're not here to destroy them, just to stop them." The battle that followed was chaotic but strangely beautiful. Hundreds of different weapon types lit up the darkness of space with colors that had never been seen together before. Human plasma cannons fired alongside Altarian crystal beams and Nexari energy pulses. The combined fleet moved like a living thing, each ship covering for its neighbors down on the planet's surface. Jack and Kira watched the battle from the settlement's command center. The young princess held Jack's hand tightly as explosions bloomed like deadly flowers in the sky above them. "Are we winning?" Kira asked quietly. Captain Tor studied the tactical displays with experienced eyes. "It is difficult to say," he admitted. "Our allies have numbers, but the Vex ships are much more powerful. One lucky shot from their main cannons could destroy several of our defender ships." As if his words were prophetic, General Voss's flagship managed to break through the defensive formation and fired directly at a cluster of smaller vessels. 2 trading ships exploded in brilliant flashes, their crews lost in an instant. The other ships pulled back, suddenly reminded of how dangerous their enemy truly was. "We're taking too many losses," Captain Santos reported over the communication system. "These Vex ships are too well armed. We need a new plan." It was then that Jack made a decision that surprised everyone. He walked to the communication console and opened a channel to all the ships in orbit. "This is Jack," he said simply. "I want to thank all of you for coming to help, but I can't let you die for my sake. I'm going to surrender myself to the Vex. Maybe that will be enough to make them leave." Before anyone could stop him, Jack opened a direct channel to General Voss's flagship. "This is the human you're looking for," he said. "I'll come aboard your ship voluntarily if you promise to leave these people alone." General Voss's cruel laughter echoed through the communication system. "How noble, little human. But you misunderstand the situation. I will take you and the Nexari princess, and I will destroy everyone who helped you escape. The galaxy must learn what happens to those who defy the Vex Empire." "Then you've made a mistake," Jack replied calmly. "You think this is about one human? and one alien girl. But it's really about something much bigger. And what would that be? General Voss sneered. Jack looked around the command center at the faces watching him. He saw humans, Nexari, and aliens from a dozen other species, all united in their determination to fight for what was right. It's about the fact that most people in this galaxy are good, Jack said. They want to live in peace, raise their families, and help their neighbors. They're tired of bullies like you who think might makes right. Today, they've decided to stand up and fight back. As if responding to Jack's words, more ships began appearing in the system. Word of the battle had spread through the hyperspace. Communication networks and beings from across the galaxy were arriving to join the fight. Military vessels, merchant ships, and even passenger liners came out of hyperspace, all offering their support. Within 2 hours, the 3 Vex ships faced a fleet of over 300 vessels. The new arrivals included some of the most powerful species in the galaxy. The Altarian Defense Force sent a squadron of battle cruisers. The human colonial navy dispatched their newest destroyer. Even the peaceful Zephyrian people, who had not fought a war in centuries, sent a hospital ship to treat the wounded. General Voss stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His 3 ships, which had seemed so powerful an hour ago, were now vastly outnumbered. Worse, many of the new arrivals had military-grade weapons that could match his own firepower. "General," Colonel Zek said urgently, "we must retreat. This battle cannot be won." "Never," General Voss snarled. "I will not be defeated by a mob of traitors and refugees." But even as he spoke, his own crew was beginning to question his orders. The Vex Empire was powerful, but it was not stupid. Fighting hundreds of ships from dozens of species would be suicide, and for what? One escaped slave and the human who freed her? The battle's turning point came when Princess Kira herself spoke over the communication system. Her young voice, speaking in perfect galactic standard, reached every ship in the system. "My name is Princess Kira of Nexus Prime," she said. "General Voss, you destroyed my world and enslaved my people. You took me from my mother and sold me like an animal. But this human, Jack, showed me that there is still goodness in the galaxy. He freed me not for money or power, but because it was the right thing to do." Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "Today, hundreds of beings from dozens of worlds have come together to protect that goodness. They risk their lives not for conquest or profit, but for the simple idea that all thinking beings deserve to be free. This is what you face, General Voss. This is what you have awakened." The words of the young princess echoed through space, heard by thousands of beings on hundreds of ships. They were reminded of why they had come, why they were willing to fight. This was not just about one human and one alien child. This was about the kind of galaxy they wanted to live in. On the Vex flagship, Colonel Zek finally found the courage to challenge his commander. "General, this fight is lost. We should withdraw while we still can." General Voss looked around his bridge and saw the doubt in his crew's eyes. For the first time in his career, he was facing an enemy that was not afraid of him. More importantly, he was facing an enemy that was united by something stronger than fear. "Stand down weapons," he ordered quietly. The 3 Vex ships slowly turned away from the planet and began moving toward the edge of the system. As they departed, General Voss sent one final message to Jack. "This is not over, human. The Vex Empire will not forget this humiliation." Jack's reply was heard by every ship in the system. "Neither will we, General, neither will we." In the months that followed, the story of the Battle of New Haven spread throughout the galaxy. It became a symbol of what could be achieved when different species worked together for a common cause. The Vex Empire, weakened by the public relations disaster, began to lose control of many of their slave markets as other species refused to trade with them. Jack continued his travels among the stars, but now he was no longer alone. Kira, who had grown into a wise young leader, often accompanied him on his journeys. Together, they helped establish refugee settlements, negotiated trade agreements, and continued the work of making the galaxy a better place for all its inhabitants. The Nexari people, with help from their new allies, eventually found a new world to call home. They built crystal cities that reached toward the stars, and they never forgot the human who had given their princes back to them. In the center of their capital city, they erected a statue showing a tall human and a small alien girl standing together, looking up at the stars. The inscription at the base of the statue was written in dozens of languages, but the message was the same in all of them: freedom is not a gift to be given, but a right to be defended. And across the galaxy, whenever someone asked what humans were really like, the answer was always the same. They were the species that freed a little alien princess, not because they had to, but because it was right. They were the species that taught the galaxy that sometimes the smallest act of kindness could change everything.